Welcome to Lost Whispers Secrets. Life never truly equips you for the moment, when everything you've built starts crumbling in front of you. I used to think betrayal was something that happened to others, to distant couples who had slowly unraveled over time. Not to us. Not to Ava and me. We weren't flawless, but who is? Marriage, I always thought, meant waking up and choosing each other, again and again, no matter the trials. That belief carried me. For Ava's birthday, I wanted to go the extra mile. I spent weeks hunting for something meaningful. A delicate silver chain with a heart pendant. Etched inside were two simple words, always yours. It wasn't extravagant, but it was heartfelt. I hoped it would serve as a reminder of all we had shared through the years. That day at the office in Manhattan dragged endlessly, calls and meetings melting into one another, but the idea of seeing her face light up kept me grounded. By the time I finally stepped inside our apartment that evening, exhaustion clung to me, yet excitement pushed through. I was ready to see her reaction. The familiar aroma of Ava's roasted chicken wafted through the air, warm and inviting. From the kitchen, laughter drifted to me, hers blended with our daughter Lily's bright giggles. Normally, that sound would melt away the weariness of the day, but something felt off. Her laugh didn't just sound cheerful. It had a different lilt, something almost playful that made my stomach tighten. I left my briefcase by the door and moved toward the voices, trying not to make a sound. I didn't intend to listen in, but I couldn't stop myself. I hovered near the entryway, just out of sight, my pulse quickening with each word. "I still can't get over how incredible last night was," Ava murmured, her voice floating in a tone I didn't recognize, soft, wistful. "He's just so attentive. So unlike the others." I went still. Who was she talking about? My brain scrambled for logic. It couldn't be me. I hadn't been home last night. I was stuck late at the office. Then came the name, and it sliced through the fog. "Ben knows how to bring the spark back." She said it lightly, but the impact was crushing. Lily, just 10 years old, responded with naive curiosity. "What do you mean, Mommy?" There was a short silence, and then Ava laughed, that same light, teasing laugh. "You'll understand when you're older. Let's just say he makes me feel appreciated." Those words hit harder than any blow. I pulled back from the wall, my fingers trembling, barely able to register what I just overheard. Who was Ben? A colleague? A neighbor? Or something worse? The knot in my chest grew unbearable as I staggered to the living room. The necklace, now burning in my pocket, mocked me with its weight. Everything I had looked forward to had flipped into a cruel parody. I sank into the couch, staring at the blank television screen, thoughts tangled and raw. Her laughter, still echoing from the kitchen, no longer brought comfort, it twisted like a blade. I said nothing that night. She kissed my cheek before bed as usual. Lily gave me her usual hug, unaware of the fracture that had just opened beneath our feet. I forced a smile, nodding, pretending nothing had changed. But lying beside her that night, staring up at the ceiling fan's slow spin, I realized I had crossed an invisible threshold I couldn't retreat from. The woman I had loved, the one I thought I knew so well, felt like a stranger now. And the next morning, I awoke with that same dull ache of displacement. Ava was humming in the kitchen, flipping pancakes as if the earth hadn't shifted overnight. Lily was at the table, bubbling about school projects, happily oblivious. I couldn't bring myself to sip more than a mouthful of coffee. The bitterness in the cup was nothing compared to what was festering inside me. "Everything all right?" Ava asked, catching my eye with a light, unreadable look. Her tone was breezy, dismissive even, as though she hadn't felt the tremor I had. I lied. "Just tired," I said, pulling on that mask I'd worn the night before. She gave a small nod and drifted back into her scrolling. I studied her face, trying to detect some sign of remorse, some flicker of guilt. But Ava wore composure like armor. If regret haunted her, she buried it deep. I wasn't ready to confront her. Not yet. I needed certainty, evidence so irrefutable that not even the most elaborate excuse could mask the truth. The thought of confronting her empty-handed unnerved me. What if she lied? What if she twisted the entire situation to make me feel like I was the one at fault? I wasn't ready to walk into that ambush. So I watched. Subtly, but intently. Every interaction she had with Lily, every hushed phone call, every fleeting text, none escaped my notice. I hated the paranoia, hated what I was becoming. But something in my gut told me the truth ran deeper than what I'd overheard. Then one night, as Ava showered, I found myself standing alone in our bathroom, staring at her phone resting silently on the sink. It looked harmless, blank and still. But I knew better. My fingers trembled as I picked it up, adrenaline already flooding my system. I paused. A part of me still clung to the hope that I was wrong. That I'd find nothing. That this was just some terrible misunderstanding. Her password hadn't changed, it hadn't needed to. With a few quick taps I was in. Her message list loaded instantly. And there it was. Right at the top. Ben. His name practically glared at me from the screen, bold and unashamed. I opened the conversation, dreading what I'd find. It began innocently enough, casual jokes, teasing, familiar shorthand. But then the tone shifted. The flirtation deepened. Ben, last night was unforgettable. I can't stop thinking about it. Ava, I feel the same. Can't wait until next time. Each message was a wound. I kept scrolling, eyes wide, unable to stop. It was undeniable. Deliberate. My chest tightened as I captured screenshot after screenshot, proof of what she tried to hide. This wasn't emotional confusion. This wasn't a gray area. This was betrayal, raw and intentional. The next evening, I sat on the edge of the couch, my phone a loaded weapon in my hand. Ava was in the kitchen, humming softly as she wiped down the counter. Lily was in her room, the house quiet, thick with tension I couldn't shake. My thoughts spiraled, returning over and over to those texts, those digital daggers. Ava, I called, cold and sharp, choosing to use her full name instead of a softened pet version. We need to talk. She paused mid-motion, then slowly turned toward me. Her expression faltered. What's going on? She asked, dabbing her hands with the towel. Her tone tried for casual, but I saw the flicker of dread in her eyes. I raised the screen, the messages staring back like a confession. Who is Ben? Her face strained in an instant, color vanishing as she took a nervous step backward. Jason, I can explain. I cut her off. Don't. I've read everything. Don't insult me by pretending there's a story I haven't already seen. Tears brimmed in her eyes as she turned her face away. It's not what it looks like, she murmured, her voice shaky. Then enlighten me, I shot back. Because from where I'm sitting, it sure as hell looks like you've been sleeping with someone who isn't your husband. She flinched at my words, the towel clenched in her fists like an anchor. I didn't plan it, she whispered, almost inaudibly. It just happened. I let out a harsh breath, a humorless laugh breaking through my disbelief. It just happened? I repeated, bitterness thick in my voice. Affairs don't just happen, Ava. You made choices, every single time. And finally, the mask cracked. She slumped into the nearest chair, her body convulsing with sobs. I stood rooted, watching her unravel, and all I could feel was the deep, aching void where trust used to live. In the days that followed, silence consumed the house. We only exchanged the bare minimum of words. It was as if we were coexisting in some crumbling shell of what used to be our life. Ava kept her head down. I kept my distance. And Lily, our daughter, our light, she saw it all. Her joy dimmed. The laughter that once filled the house became rare. One evening, I found her curled up on her bed, her hands folded in her lap like she was praying for normalcy. She looked up as I entered, her expression uncertain. Dad? She asked softly. Is something wrong? I sat down beside her, feeling the full weight of the moment pressing against my chest. Lily, I need to ask you something, I said gently. Do you know Ben? Has your mom ever talked about him? Her face turned pale. She looked away quickly, her voice no more than a whisper. I didn't think you knew. Her words landed with crushing force. The truth had been hiding in plain sight, and I hadn't seen it. But she had. You knew? I asked, my voice barely holding together. Lily, why didn't you say something? I didn't know what to do, she replied, her tears falling freely. Mom told me he made her happy. She said you wouldn't get it. Her words cut deeper than I expected. My own daughter, the one person I thought was untouched by all this, had been carrying the truth alone. I pulled her into my arms, my own tears finding their way down. This isn't your fault, I whispered. You never should have been caught in the middle of this. I'm sorry, for everything. After that conversation, the full weight of it all came crashing down. I had always believed I could shelter Lily from the cruel corners of life, from the sting of betrayal and broken trust. But Ava had dragged her into this, handed her a secret too heavy for a child to bear. The days blurred after that. The house echoed with silence. Ava and I spoke only when necessary, and even then our words were brittle, stripped of warmth. Lily did her best to avoid the crossfire, retreating to her room whenever the air became too thick to breathe. I could see the change in her, how the brightness in her eyes dimmed, how her laughter disappeared. One night, I realized I couldn't keep pretending this limbo was survivable. I had to move forward. Ava was standing at the counter, scrolling mindlessly through her phone like none of it mattered. I walked in and placed the manila folder down in front of her. She blinked, caught off guard. What's this? She asked. Evidence, I said flatly. Evidence of what? That I'm not oblivious. That I see what you've done. She opened it, her fingers shaky, flipping through the printouts. Screenshots of her texts with Ben. A timeline I had carefully assembled. Every unexplained outing, every strange call, every missing piece now accounted for. As she read, the color drained from her face. Jason. I don't even know what to say. Don't. My voice was calm, but steel-edged every word. There's nothing left to explain. I didn't bring this to reopen a conversation. I brought it so you'd see the damage for yourself. She sank into the chair behind her, tears streaking her face, speechless. For a flicker of a second, I almost pitied her. But then the images of those texts, of Lily's tearful eyes, came flooding back. I stood tall. I've already contacted an attorney, I told her. I'm filing for divorce. Her eyes widened. Jason, please. Don't do this. We can fix it. I know I messed up, but I still love you. Her words rang hollow, like they were echoing inside a house already emptied of meaning. You don't love someone and destroy them, I said, my voice low. You don't betray them and make your own child a keeper of your lies. Then I turned and left, her quiet sobs following me down the hall. For the first time in what felt like forever, I felt something close to clarity. I had finally taken the first step toward reclaiming my life, and I wasn't going to stop. Later that night, I tapped gently on Lily's door. She looked up from her desk, her face drawn and weary. Dad? She said, unsure. I sat beside her on the bed and took a breath. Lily, I want you to understand, none of this is on you. What's happening between your mom and me is because of the choices we made. You're not to blame. Her eyes welled again, and she shook her head. But I knew. I knew, and I didn't say anything. I thought I was helping her, but I made it worse. I wrapped her in my arms as she cried. You're just a kid, Lily. You never should have had to carry that. That's on her, not on you. We sat like that for a long while, her tears soaking into my shirt as I gently stroked her hair. When she finally pulled away, I wiped her cheeks and gave her a faint smile. We're going to get through this, I said. You and me, we're a team, no matter what happens. That promise stands. The next morning, I called Ryan, my closest friend since college. He'd been there through every twist of my life. When I told him everything, he didn't interrupt, just listened, his face darkening as I spoke. This Ben character, he finally said, his voice firm. He's bad news. If you want, I'll look into him. Let's see what kind of mess he's dragging behind him. I hesitated, then gave a single nod. Do it. I need the truth, no matter how ugly. Over the next few days, Ryan put his contacts to work and dug deep. What he uncovered was worse than I had feared. Ben wasn't just some charming stranger Ava stumbled into. He had a pattern: affairs with married women, manipulation for his own gain, and then he'd vanish when things turned south. There were whispers of underhanded deals, a string of civil suits, even a few sealed investigations. Armed with this, I met again with my attorney. "This isn't just about a divorce," I said. "We're going to make sure neither Ava nor Ben can touch Lily or anyone else again." When I confronted Ava with what Ryan had found, her reaction was a cocktail of shock and trembling denial. "That's not true," she insisted. "He's not like that." I handed her the folder. "Don't take my word for it, read." She did. Slowly. And with each page, her expression collapsed further. When her eyes finally lifted to mine, they were full of tears. "I didn't know," she whispered. "I didn't know who he was." I didn't respond right away. Her words didn't move me, they rang hollow. "No," I said finally. "You didn't care. Not about me. Not about Lily. Not about what it would do to our family. You let this man into our world, and now we're dealing with the fallout." She sat frozen, hands clenched around the papers. The tears kept coming, but they felt rehearsed, like grief for a lost illusion rather than guilt for a real betrayal. "So what now?" she asked eventually, her voice thin. I leaned back. "That's not my question to answer anymore. Do you want to keep pretending this is normal? Keep ignoring the impact on your daughter? Or will you face what you've done?" She said nothing. Just stared at the floor as her silence confirmed everything I already knew. My resolve tightened. I wasn't just fighting for myself, I had to fight for Lily too. She deserved more than confusion and silence. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," I said, keeping my voice level. "The divorce is underway. My priority is Lily. I'll make sure she's protected, emotionally and legally. As for you, Ava, you'll have to deal with the consequences of your choices. Lily deserved truth, even if it hurt. I couldn't allow her to grow up with missing pieces, always wondering what had really happened behind the closed doors of our home." A few days later, I sat her down in the living room, the weight of what I was about to say pressing down on my chest. "Lily," I started softly, "there's something important we need to talk about. It's about your mom and me." She hugged a pillow close, eyes wide with fear. "Are you getting a divorce?" she asked, her voice quivering. I nodded, struggling to keep the lump in my throat from closing my words off. "Yes, honey. We are. Your mom and I have been having problems for a while now, and we've realized we can't fix it. But I want you to hear this clearly, none of this is your fault. You didn't cause this. You didn't do anything wrong." Her eyes welled with tears, and she looked away. "I heard you fighting," she whispered. I knew something was wrong. I reached over, resting my hand gently on her shoulder. "I know, sweetie. And I'm so sorry you had to hear that. But your mom and I, we both love you. That will never change. We've made some terrible choices, but now we have to find a new way forward, one that's best for all of us." She nodded slowly, tears spilling down her cheeks as she leaned into me. "I just want us to be okay again," she whispered. In the days that followed, Ava made several attempts to reach me. She left handwritten notes on the kitchen counter, sent long, emotional messages, even sat outside my home office door late at night, pleading for a conversation. But I couldn't open that door. Every message, every apology felt like a fresh wound, a reminder of everything she'd shattered. One rainy evening, with Lily at a friend's house and the storm tapping gently at the windows, Ava confronted me in the living room. "Jason, please," she said, her voice cracking. "Can we try again? Counseling, anything. I just don't want to lose us." I looked at her, my jaw tight. "Try? Ava, this isn't a flat tire or a bad week. You didn't just betray me. You tore apart the life we built, and worse, you dragged our daughter into the fallout. You want to fix this with a few sessions and good intentions?" She winced but held my gaze. "I know I failed you," she said quietly. "I know I hurt you, but I still love you. That has to count for something. I shook my head slowly. It's too late. Love isn't enough when the damage is this deep. You made your choices. Now I'm making mine. From that point, the divorce proceedings picked up momentum. It was just as brutal and draining as I had feared. Rebecca, my attorney, was relentless and precise. She kept me focused, warned me not to get drawn into emotional arguments, and reminded me that protecting Lily's well-being was the only battle worth fighting. Ava resisted, especially when it came to custody. She insisted she wasn't a bad mother, that her affair didn't erase her love for Lily. But Rebecca came armed with evidence. She laid out Ava's actions and the emotional toll they had taken on our daughter. The judge listened. And in the end, I was granted primary custody. Ava was given visitation rights, but Lily would live with me. I didn't feel victorious. I didn't want to separate a child from her mother. But I knew it was the safest, most stable path for her. After the ruling, Ava's life began to crumble. Ben's dealings caught up with him. His name surfaced in an investigation and he vanished without a trace. Ava was left to pick up the pieces, abandoned and exposed. Her friends drifted away, and her social standing eroded. She tried to rebuild, but it was clear she was struggling. Meanwhile, Lily and I began to put our own pieces back together. It wasn't seamless. There were nights when the weight of everything nearly buried me. But I never let her feel it. I made it my mission to show her she was still safe, still loved, that our new world could be strong too. The seasons shifted. Slowly, the pain dulled. Lily began to smile more often. Her laughter returned to the house like sunlight after a long winter. I poured myself into my work, into the little rituals that gave us rhythm, breakfasts, school pickups, weekend hikes. I began to believe in a version of the future where betrayal wasn't the defining story, but survival was. One evening, as we sat on the porch watching the last gold light dip below the trees, Lily turned to me with a soft smile. "I'm glad we're okay now, Dad," she said. "I'm glad we're happy." I pulled her close, my eyes stinging with quiet relief. "Me too, sweetheart. Me too." For the first time in forever, I said it, and meant every word. Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you loved this revenge story, subscribe to the channel for more. This was Whisper Secrets. Thanks for listening.